Mindfulness is, at its heart, a process of becoming a better friend to yourself. The attitudinal foundations that we have begun identifying as beginner's mind and acceptance, as well as the reflections on personal contracts and positive personal shadows that we have begun exploring, become critical components to consciously nourish your self-friendship. These elements or constituents of your self-friendship need to be not only realized, but also added and incorporated into the structure of mindfulness in order to give life to this healthier way of being. And since self-judgment is often intruded at this point in the mindfulness practice, we need to explore this powerful interloper that has the capacity to derail developing and deepening self-friendship. Non-judging. This is therefore an appropriate time to explore the third attitudinal foundation of mindfulness, which is non-judging. As you will remember, this in fact is part of the definition of mindfulness, which means to pay attention, on purpose, in the present moment, in a non-judgmental manner. And what they mean by a non-judgmental manner is to be open and curious as to whatever is arising. Mindfulness is cultivated by assuming the stance of an impartial witness to your own experience. When you start to practice, you will be paying particular attention to not only the activity of your own mind, but also to your relationship to whatever arises. When beginning your mindfulness practice, it is common to discover and often be surprised by the realization that you are constantly generating judgments about your experience. Almost everything you experience is labeled and categorized by the mind. You react to everything in terms of what you think its value is to you. Some things, people, and events are judged as good because they make you feel positive for whatever reason. Others are equally quickly condemned as bad because they are associated with negative feelings. The rest are often categorized as neutral because you don't think or feel that it has much relevance. You may not even be consciously aware that the judgment is one of good or bad or neutral, but you will likely be aware that you want more or less of what you are experiencing in that moment. The desire for more or less is in fact the face of judgment. What turns out to be particularly interesting is that there is often no conscious awareness of the evaluation process that is actually occurring. Rather, this habit of categorizing and judging our experience locks us into mechanical reactions that we are not even aware of, and that often have no objective basis at all. These judgments tend to dominate our minds, making it difficult for us ever to find any peace within ourselves. Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn offers that it is as if the mind were a yo-yo, going up and down on the string of your own judging thoughts all day long. Recognizing your judgments. Paying attention to the content of what arises in your mind and body as you focus your awareness on your anchor of attention is therefore very instructive. You may not easily recognize the judgments that you make about each thought, about each feeling or each body sensation, but with practice and attentiveness, you will more readily be cognizant of what is occurring. However, don't spend your time analyzing judgments about your thoughts or feelings or physical sensations while you are actually engaged in your formal sitting or walking meditations. This is counterproductive, and it takes you even further away from your goal, which is to focus your attention and awareness on just this moment through your anchor of awareness. In the mindfulness practice, simply notice such intrusions and return to your anchor of awareness. However, outside of the formal sitting and walking practices, pay more attention to the judgments that the mind is making. Notice what you are drawn to and what you move away from, what you want more of and what you want less of, what you spend your time on and what you avoid. Be curious. Be curious about your thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and behaviors, and especially about the judgments that are constantly being generated. What you will also likely find as you continue with developing mindfulness awareness, both during formal meditation practices as well as during your daily activities, is that many of these judgments are directed towards yourself. Not only do you judge the value of ideas, memories, future plans, feelings, or body sensations, but you, as the central figure in your life's drama, are also constantly being evaluated. For example, Jennifer told herself that she wasn't smart enough to master the mindfulness practice. Henry questioned his morality when erotic fantasies arose. Stan felt inferior when comparing himself with his friends' career paths. William felt that he was a weak person because he could not hold his attention on his breath. Sybil decided there must be something wrong with her when she felt teary during a meditation sit. Camilla continued to berate herself as an unworthy friend when recalling a disagreement that she was involved with months ago. Timothy wondered what was wrong with him when he felt disappointed about his retirement. And on these self-judgments continue. Within the psychology field, these self-judgments are often characterized as an inner critic, or an inner parent, or an inner judge, who simply cannot be satisfied. And what experience has demonstrated is that it is true that you can never win the debate as to your self-value as long as you believe that these negative self-judgments are true. Exploring self-judgments. In the spirit of mindful awareness to explore your self-judgments, it can be very instructive to spend a day or even half a day tracking judgments that you lay upon yourself as you go through daily activities. Just be curious as to what emotional valence, which is generally characterized as good or bad or neutral, is associated with thoughts, memories, plans for the future, behaviors, feelings, or body sensations that you experience. You may not even be consciously aware that the judgment is one of good or bad or neutral, but you will likely be aware that you want more or you want less of what you are experiencing in that moment. Even very simple activities, such as waiting in line for a coffee, will generate thoughts, feelings, or body sensations, which, if looked more closely at, will likely also hold self-judgments. Be curious. Just be curious as to what you are thinking and feeling about yourself. However, even suggesting this exercise can be misconstrued as just another opportunity to beat up on yourself, to negatively judge yourself. Therefore, it is critical to emphasize that while the focus is on understanding the judgments that you make as you go about your day, it is not to lay further negative judgments on yourself. This is not about whether you are a good person or not. It is simply to pay attention to the judgments that your mind is making as you go through your day. These are just thoughts, feelings, or physical sensations that you like or don't like or feel neutral towards. It is not any judgment about you as a person. Mindfulness offers the opportunity to change the relationship you have with yourself, which to a large degree includes challenging ongoing self-judgments. As you have no doubt experienced with friendships, feeling constantly, or even occasionally, judged by another erodes trust and sabotages intimacy. Do you think that the outcome will be any different with a lifetime of judging yourself? When practicing mindfulness, it is important to recognize this judging quality when it appears and to intentionally assume the stance of an impartial witness by reminding yourself to just observe it. When you find the mind judging, you don't have to beat up on yourself. You don't have to agree with the judgment. You don't have to debate the merits of the judgment. You don't have to get pulled down emotionally because of the judgment. You don't have to tense your body in reaction to the judgment. All that is required is to be aware of what is happening. It is simply a judgment, a stimuli like any other phenomena that enters your field of awareness. No need to judge the judging and make matters even worse or complicated for yourself. The idea of being an impartial witness to thoughts and feelings and physical sensations that arise in your mind is an important part of what you will be doing with mindfulness practice. It simply is a thought, or it simply is a feeling, or it simply is a physical sensation. The practice is to just notice whatever arises, to not feed it with more judgments or debates or rationales, or to embellish it with stories from our past or fantasies about the future. With the change in your understanding and handling of persistent intrusions, the practice offers an opportunity to consciously respond to what is important to you, rather than simply react and feel as though you were helplessly being dragged around by whatever stimuli pops into your awareness. If there is an issue that is important to consider or attend to, then consciously spend the time investing your awareness on it. Mindfulness is not demanding a retreat from your life. Rather, it is offering the opportunity to more fully invest and experience all that your life presents. By all means, consider and invest the time and energy needed with problems that require solutions, plans that need to be made for the future, interpersonal difficulties that require attention. The goal, however, is to consciously decide when you will do so, to not get yanked around by such intrusions simply because they arise into consciousness, to recognize that the vast majority of stimuli that arise and pull your attention from this moment are really empty, shiny objects that do not require immediate attention, nor do they add anything of value to your life, and especially to your self-friendship. Reflections on non-judging and aging. As you may already have experienced, advancing years brings the possibility of a myriad of physical, cognitive, and emotional challenges which are not always readily welcomed. William Shakespeare noted in his play As You Like It that in life all the world's a stage, with Shakespeare lamenting that old age brings the last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. While Shakespeare's summary is a theatrically bleak one, the reality is that diminishment of functioning is not easy to embrace, let alone accept. Nevertheless, the mindfulness focus on living in the present moment with an attitude of positive self-friendship can help take the sting out of such losses, and is the continuing central focus of this book. Rigidity and criticalness. However, most of us have directly or indirectly encountered elders who seem to be experiencing a particularly difficult time at this point in their life. Perhaps you too have felt this agitation within yourself. Their perturbed, edgy, agitated, and restless countenance reflects the negative judgment that they bring to their world. Nothing seems right. They are easily critical of and quick to judge others, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. There is a rigidity evident in the way they see and experience the world around them. There is less flexibility in understanding others because their own beliefs and attitudes have seemingly ossified in their elder years. Their vitality dries up. Stereotypically, they are characterized as the crotchety old man, or the withered old hag of literature and film. Unfortunately, some of these attitudes and behaviors can arise because of neurocognitive disease, resulting in a confused awareness of reality and subsequent defensive rigidity, mistrust, and criticalness of others and the world around. The fear that arises through diminishing cognitive capabilities can be especially disconcerting and frightening, resulting in the need for a compassionate caregiving environment. However, outside of a neurocognitive disease etiology, there are alternative understandings and explanations for an overly rigid and critical stance associated with older age. For example, those rigid and critical attitudes and behaviors can arise as a defense against accepting the inevitable changes, typically losses, that can accompany advancing years. An angry assault towards the unfairness of life easily spills over to a rigid and critical stance directed towards everything and everyone that is encountered. As noted earlier, and continuing throughout the remainder of this book, mindfulness and its accompanying attitudinal foundations present a counterforce to those self- and outer-directed negative judgments through a conscious acceptance of whatever arises. Earlier, in the podcast on acceptance, I introduced the concept of the personal shadow, the disowned or unacknowledged positive aspects of yourself that have laid buried beneath your consciousness. The exploration and acceptance of your disowned and unacknowledged inner constituents presents the opportunity to expand your sense of self in a positive manner, To recognize that the parameters of the life you have been living is mistakenly believed as the only one for you, when in fact it is only a small and constricted version of your true potential. Projections. Your personal shadow is, however, more than the positive characteristics that were disowned or had gone unacknowledged. Your shadow also includes negative attributes, ones that you would not be proud to own. These shadowy characteristics also live in the unconscious and therefore are ones that you do not necessarily recognize. However, as opposed to the positive attributes that can enhance your life, up to now these ones are not considered worthy and therefore are ones that you do not even want to accept as being part of yourself. Projecting these unwanted aspects of yourself onto others through emotionally charged, rigid, and critical reactions can act as a defense through keeping these unwanted truths from consciousness. A recognition and investigation of engaging in critical and emotionally charged judgments about others provides the opportunity to assess what lies behind such seemingly over-the-top behaviors. Examples of projections include Cleo being furious with the loud music coming from her neighbor's apartment. Jackson was livid with the congressman's negative characterization of his primary opponent. Liam was distressed that his friend did not show up as promised to help fix his car. Emma was enraged that the librarian did not let her know when her requested book became available. Sarah was fuming with the bus driver's dismissive and unhelpful directions about transfer points for connecting buses. While there may well be good reasons for emotional reactions to each of these behaviors, it is the degree of upset, the intensity of the criticalness, and the inflexible rigidity of quick judgments that flags each event as a potential projection of personal characteristics that you do not want to acknowledge, let alone ones which you do not even want to claim ownership. The impassioned and vehement emotional reactions, coupled with the quick and emphatic judgment of the neighbor to be inconsiderate, the politician to be intolerant, the friend to be unreliable, the librarian to be irresponsible, and the bus driver to be arrogant, goes beyond the sting experienced in the moment by the other's behavior. Rather, the over-the-top emotional reaction that lingers and will not easily abate, fueled by a dogmatic judgment of the other's inherent character flaws through a single behavior, is usually a sign that a projection is alive and well. Withdrawing projections. Withdrawing projections means, first of all, being cognizant that your reaction is beyond what the situation calls for. While the other's beliefs and/or actions can certainly arouse an emotional response, your felt and expressed rejoinder is simply too much. When you are aware of the inappropriate intensity and duration of your upset, the probing question to ask yourself is, how am I like that? How am I inconsiderate, intolerant, irresponsible, arrogant, or whatever your quick and pointed judgment of the other may have been? An honest appraisal and self-reflection is the entry into exploring your projections of the unconscious negative shadow side of yourself. While I've never met anyone who sincerely wants to be seen as inconsiderate or intolerant, irresponsible, arrogant, or any of the 1,001 other negative character or behavioral attributes available to each of us, the reality is that everyone does have the potential to act in such a manner. You, like everyone else on this planet, have the potential to hold such thoughts or express such actions, although just as noted earlier when discussing shadows in the acceptance broadcast, recognizing their existence doesn't mean you have to unleash them on others. Becoming aware of such beliefs or actions provides you with the gift of consciousness, of the ability to consciously respond as opposed to unconsciously react. Meeting aspects of your negative shadow side can be humbling. The range of potentially unsavory, hurtful, and mean-spirited attributes that each of us possesses is not pleasant. It can be unsettling, and therefore is usually unwelcomed. What is far worse, however, is leaving them unexplored and therefore submerged in your unconscious, as this only cultivates a fertile breeding ground for the lightning eruption of painfully critical reactions to others. Knowing that your negative shadow side has been activated through your overcompensated reactions brings an opportunity to become aware of their existence. While the fallout from your unconscious negative shadow side can be evident at any age, holding and expressing such poisonous attitudes, beliefs, and actions can be especially destructive during your aging years. The opportunity for more peaceful and harmonious relationships with not only others, but especially with yourself, follows the conscious withdrawing of projections and the developing, ongoing integration of all of who you are, the conscious as well as the unconscious, positive and negative shadow sides of your personality. Mindfulness, with its emphasis on non-judgment, supports this healthy personal development. Integrating your shadow. Integrating shadow aspects of yourself is a lifelong process, as there is a seemingly endless array of unconscious personal traits and qualities, including unwanted foibles, to uncover. After acknowledging and accepting that you have negative shadow characteristics, withdrawing projections presents a healthy inoculation against mindlessly unleashing rigid, critical, and potentially destructive words and actions. Knowing of the benefits accrued through withdrawing projections, the question therefore becomes not should you do so, but rather, if not now, when?